Whatever was left of etiquette, morale in politics is long gone. The present political climate in Canada stinks. You can call an elected dictatorship democracy. Not only the party leadership is failing us, but most of the members of parliament as well. The partisanship, extreme partisanship, makes it impossible for them to work together for the benefits of all of us. Mr. Lauzon, your party promised honesty, transparency, accountability, and the better decorum in the House. Your party didn't deliver.
Question.
Hold on. The second time in my life I experienced Nazi-style tactic, politicking, and propaganda. I think
if you don't have a question,
who do we blame? We look at the mirror. We elected. We deserve better. Please, your comments.
You mentioned one of the points you made was that you felt it was the party leaders were dictating. Let me just tell you the experience. Perfect example. People accuse the Prime Minister of being a dictator and not allowing caucus to voice her opinions and that kind of thing. That's a lot of the opposition spin. But let me tell you how an example of how caucus worked, the various caucuses that were in Parliament. Back when the same-sex marriage, which was a very, very controversial decision, same-sex marriage, so I went out to my constituents and got some feedback as to how they wanted me to vote on that. I was able to stand up in my caucus and tell the Prime Minister and all my colleagues how I wanted to vote. And I was able to vote. I had a free vote. The only two votes that I don't have a free vote on are votes of confidence or votes of money. If I get up and I want to vote on a certain way on any bill other than those two issues, I vote my conscience or I vote how my constituency wants me. Over the same-sex marriage, the NDP kicked a person out of Bev Desjarlais from the Northwest Territories, was removed from caucus because she didn't vote the way her leader told us. Joe Camuzzi, who was a minister in the Martin government, was removed from cabinet because he didn't vote. The Bloc Québécois removed a member, Mrs. Thibault, because she didn't vote. It was only the Conservative Party that was allowed to vote their conscience as per their constituents, and we had 4 people who voted for same-sex marriage. I rest my case.
Darcy, go ahead.
I understand your frustration, sir. I look at the different parties and I have the same feeling about integrity. I looked at them, I didn't like them, I decided to do something about it. I joined a party that says each individual has the right to his or her own life, and that right is the source of all other rights. Is that what you want? If it is, join our party.
All right, thank you, Darcy. Wyatt, please.
I agree with you too. My wife is over there, and she was the one that suggested that I step into this fray. I'm not a politician, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm disgusted by what I see. The first thing I want to do, if I manage to get there to represent you, is ask for term limits for the Prime Minister. If a Prime Minister knows that he's only there for 2 terms, he is not going to call an election after 2 years. He's going to work with people. We have people that have ideology deciding what they do. They don't care what they do, but they're going to jam it through. They don't really have a majority, but they're going to push through what they have to say. If we have term limits, those prime ministers are going to know they get 2 terms, and then you have to move, and you're going to have good people now rise to the top. Mr. Chrétien stayed far too long, and he knew when he left that he was leaving the Liberal Party in such a mess.
30 seconds.
When Mr. Mulrooney left, he created the Bloc Québécois for us. That's a conservative Frankenstein. We deserve better. Term limits for prime ministers, spread it around. As a private member, I'll be allowed to do that, and hopefully Mr. Lauzon will tell Mr. Harper, it's time to go.
Mario, go ahead, please.
Thank you for the question. The NDP #1 priority has been for years to have basically a real democracy. As you know, we're far away from this ideal of this progressive thinking. We always been promoting the proportional representation, a mixed formula. That's one way we can get a real democracy, or a better democracy, so to speak. The second way is to abolish the Senate. And when you look at the last few years, it's really sad to see under the Conservative government that our democracy is really in bad shape. They shut down Parliament twice. They were found in contempt of Parliament, and they trying to get away with the voting subsidies. You know, with those smaller parties like, you know, most of us, right? They don't rely on the big corporation and private donation, and they have the right to exist. And this is part of our democracy. And unfortunately, that's what they're going after, and this is going really against our principle of our democracy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Bernadette, please.
Thank you for the question. I've been doing a lot of door-to-door every day, actually, since the campaign started. And I get a lot of people at the door telling me, we don't feel very connected to the people in Ottawa. We don't feel that they reflect who we are and how we behave in our own families, in our own workplaces. And it's discouraging to hear that. We have a government that is increasingly closed. It's hard to get information, financial information from this government. And when they don't provide information to parliamentarians, then they're disrespecting Parliament. And if you disrespect Parliament, you're disrespecting the people who elected the people who sit in Parliament. And that's the tone that we're getting increasingly. What we need to do is set a better tone in question period. We need to open up question period. We need to have our politicians and our Prime Minister face the public. You know, I said in the last debate that we should go door to door midway through our term. That's the way to consult with people. That's the way to really get an opinion of how you're doing as a politician, as an elected official. Talk to people, have community forums, face the public, get that feedback. Question periods should be the same. The Prime Minister there should be a people's question period where people have a chance to ask questions online. We have all kinds of technological ways to do that. To have our elected officials accountable to the people who have elected them. And I think that's a way of engaging people, and people will feel like, okay, the people that we've put there actually speak to us, and speak to us in a tone that we expect them to speak to us too. So that's what I think about that democracy, and that's why I think there's increasingly people not feeling engaged in the process. And there are a lot of things that we can do to make that better. Canadians want us to.